I want you all to know that we get it. Folks across the country are struggling right now. The stock market continues to plummet. Unemployment continues to rise. 401k accounts get smaller and smaller. So what does the federal government do? They continue to plow ahead with a reckless, massive government spending agenda. And I'm afraid to say it, but I am not sure what it will take to make Nancy Pelosi understand that her plan to borrow and spend the nation's way back to prosperity won't work. It won't work today, and it won't work tomorrow. From the $1 trillion so-called stimulus package to the $410 billion pork-filled appropriations bill, to the bank, auto, and now another housing bailout, one thing's very clear to me. The Democrats in this Congress are on a reckless spending spree with your money, and it has got to stop. Yes. Yes. You know, my opposition to the $1 trillion so-called economic stimulus package was real simple. It cost a bunch, and it's not expected to work. But don't take my word for it. I'm just a simple country girl. Yeah. We need to listen to people like the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. And according to them, this $1 trillion spending bill is actually going to make the economy worse. That's right. They found that it was going to be a net negative to our country's GDP. But Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid passed it anyway, and President Obama signed it. Speaker Pelosi and House Democrats had an opportunity to help Americans through this tough time, but unfortunately they decided to fund a long liberal wish list that includes things like this: $335 million for STD prevention, $50 million for the National Endowment of the Arts, $400 million for something called the National Treasures, $8 billion that included funding a railroad between Las Vegas and Los Angeles so that Californians could go gamble, which ironically is what got us into this trouble to begin with. Now, I'm not suggesting that some of these programs are without merit. They might or might not be important, but that's exactly my point. We don't know, because they didn't go through the normal appropriations process, and they didn't have to stand up to the scrutiny that all government spending should. A true stimulus package should have provided a balanced mix of fast-acting tax relief to individuals and small businesses and targeted investment in our crumbling roads and bridges. It should have done what the plan I supported did, which was reduce payroll taxes, putting more money in employees' pockets to stimulate the economy as they please, and more money in employers' pockets so they could stimulate the economy by actually creating jobs or investing in capital. And a true stimulus package would have invested in roads and bridges. That's the kind of investment that sparks growth and the sort of spending that has a true federal and constitutional purpose as we work to advance interstate commerce. The House Republicans' alternative package created twice the jobs at half the cost. Even President Obama's own economic advisors admitted that much. That's why I'm proud to say that not one single Republican in the House of Representatives voted for the Democrats' plan, but several Democrats voted for our plan. Now, I know that the folks on the other side of this issue are saying, how could you vote against free money that the good folks in Kansas are going to get? What's your problem? The folks on the other side of this issue are saying, how could you vote against free money that the good folks in Kansas are going to get. You know, what's your problem? Do you hate education? You know, are you opposed to the money the Democrats put in there to lay the groundwork for government-run health care? Well, in that particular case, I am. And you know what? Kansans will receive a nice sum of money from the stimulus package, about $1.7 billion of the $809 billion that will be spent. But guess what? That $1.7 billion is not free money. In fact, the Congressional Budget Office, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, says the stimulus bill will cost each family in this country approximately $10,000 each. That means for the $1.7 billion coming to Kansas, we will pay $10.8 billion. Now, I don't care if you are a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, getting $1.7 billion at the cost of $10.8 billion is not a good deal. And folks, the stimulus is just the tip of the iceberg. Last week, the House passed a $410 billion appropriations bill to fund the federal government until the end of September. This bill represents the largest increase in non-emergency spending since President Carter was in office. It is packed full of nearly 9,000 wasteful earmarks and increases the federal budget by more than 8%, while families across Kansas tighten their budget to make ends meet. It is absolutely ridiculous that Nancy Pelosi decided she could increase the federal budget by $32 billion. Now, there was a bit of good news out of the Senate late last week. Harry Reid didn't get enough votes to pass this pork-filled bill, so the House and Senate both passed a short-term resolution to fund government at current levels until the middle of this week. And I've joined Republicans in the House calling for an immediate freeze to government spending at current levels. I'm hopeful when we... Yes. I'm hopeful that when we get back to town this afternoon, more Democrats in the House will accept that challenge and help protect your pocketbooks. Last but certainly not least is the housing bill that passed the House last week. More than 90% of homeowners have played by the rules and paid their monthly mortgages. It is completely unfair to force them to subsidize lenders who made risky loans or people who knowingly got in over their head buying homes they could not afford. You know, there's a big difference between helping folks who honestly need assistance and simply throwing more money at bad actors. The bill the House passed will not fix the housing crisis, and it will likely end up costing more for responsible folks who paid their mortgages. It's wrong for House Democrats to continue to ask you to pay for the mistakes of others. The bankruptcy cram-down provision included in that bill will reward bad behaviors and increase mortgage costs for all Kansans. Thanks to this misguided notion, folks who knowingly bought homes beyond their means will now be allowed to file bankruptcy, get their mortgage payments reduced, and leave their rule-following neighbors holding the bag with an even higher interest rate. This cram-down rewards both the folks who bought homes they couldn't afford and also the irresponsible lenders who approved those loans. That's wrong, and that's nothing that any of us should support. There's no doubt the American people are struggling right now, but the solutions coming out of the Democrat-controlled Congress are only making things worse. The wasteful spending habits in Congress need to